Welcome to Eat Well 3, Healthy Dieting. So what is healthy dieting? What do we actually constitute as a healthy diet? What does healthy diets mean to you? A healthy diet serves as the cornerstone of overall health, well-being, and optimal growth and development across all stages of life, because it not only provides essential nutrients but also safeguards us against various forms of malnutrition, including undernutrition, overnutrition, and micronutrient deficiencies. Conversely, an unhealthy diet ranks among the foremost risk factors contributing towards the global burden of disease, particularly for non-communicable diseases such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and cancer. Now, the consumption of excessive amounts of processed foods, high in sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats, coupled with inadequate intake of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, significantly increases the risk of developing chronic conditions. And whilst you might not necessarily think about this, a lot of people are malnourished when they diet. And that comes down to a diet plan that they follow, which doesn't have enough fiber, there's no micronutrients in that specific plan, and they then end up binge eating or perhaps binge drinking, turning towards sugary refined carbohydrates and processed foods because they were not able to stick to that diet. So what we actually need to do when labeling what is a healthy diet is address dietary patterns and promote balanced nutrition, because that's going to be imperative to mitigate the prevalence and impact it could have on non-communicable diseases such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and cancer. So, in my opinion, what is a healthy diet? What do we constitute as a healthy diet? A healthy diet has a balance of carbohydrate, protein, and fat. A healthy diet is also one that we can stick to. A healthy diet is 80% nutritious foods, 20% less nutritious foods. I think we get into a predicament of labeling foods as good or bad. There's no good or bad foods. There are foods that spike your blood glucose levels and can contribute towards those non-communicable diseases. But also there's foods that can stabilize your blood glucose levels and be more applicable when dieting down or when building muscle, when actually maintaining. So, in my opinion, a healthy diet is a diet that works for you. But we will always push a nutritious diet plan that has balance and variety to give you a better understanding of how that impacts your health, because health is wealth. So looking at carbohydrates, again, to give you a brief overview, they are the primary source of energy that our body readily converts into glucose. So let's say I have a bowl of pasta, my little worker inside of my mouth, amylase, breaks down that pasta into smaller bite-sized chunks. It then moves down the esophagus into the stomach. Mechanical digestion takes place. We also have amylase there, further breaking it down. We then move it towards the small intestine, the duodenum, the jejunum, the ileum, and that's where absorption takes place. And we actually absorb that glucose. We push it from the blood into our cells. Now, beyond their energy yielding capacity, they also provide essential dietary fiber. This is how we pay our little workers, our gut microbiome, the thousands and thousands of bacteria and enzymes that sit in the stomach that help to break down that food and drink. Essentially, when we have more dietary fiber, that's going to be crucial for promoting healthy digestion and gut function. We're paying our workers because this fiber aids in regularity of bowel movements, preventing constipation, and it also fosters the growth of beneficial gut bacteria. However, the breakdown of carbohydrate into glucose can have implications for weight management. And that's because excess glucose that isn't immediately utilized for energy can be stored as glycogen in the liver and the muscle, and also stored as subcutaneous or visceral fat. So if you are someone that is looking to lose weight or to drop body fat, we need to be mindful of portion sizes, but we also need to be mindful of the impact blood glucose has on hunger and satiety, as well as the quantity and quality of that food and the number of calories. So there's quite a lot to consider there. But recommendations often suggest that a quarter palm size should be adequate for starchy foods. This guideline is going to help to control your calorie intake and maintain a balanced diet. If you're someone that's not following a meal plan and you are focusing on portion control, varying the types of starchy foods consumed actually adds diversity to your nutritional profile, and it's also going to ensure a broader spectrum of essential nutrients and preventing monotony in dietary habits, because if you're eating the same meals every single day, you are likely to go off track. You're not a bodybuilder. You're not going to be eating out of a Tupperware. I find it very monotonous. Instead, we want to push back to what we would label as healthy dieting, foods that work for you, and variety is the spice of life. Now, someone with higher energy needs, such as our ultramarathon runner, may actually need more carbohydrate or more calories due to increased physical activity, which then in turn leads to larger portions of carbohydrates, whereas those aiming for weight loss might benefit from smaller servings. So the idea that carbohydrate should be palm size, a quarter of your portion plate, that's going to depend on individual differences. Now, the impact of carbohydrate consumption on blood glucose actually underscores the importance of moderation and balance, because when we have larger portions of carbohydrate, that's going to lead to more significant spikes and actually production of insulin. Whereas if we have smaller portions more frequently, we'll have that gentle spike and drop. And again, that's going to help with satiety and less frequent spikes in blood glucose, so we could be maintained throughout the day. So looking at whole grains, when we actually incorporate them and higher fiber foods into our daily diet, there are a ton of health benefits that extend far beyond basic nutrition. Notably, these foods play a crucial role in promoting a sense of satiety and fullness. We can see a variety of different there: wheat berries, oatmeal, quinoa, brown rice, buckwheat, corn, barley, amaranth. That's going to help to aid weight management and reduce the likelihood of overeating and snacking between meals. So the higher fiber content in whole grains not only slows down digestion, but also adds bulk to your stool, facilitating regular bowel movements and preventing constipation. So this is going to contribute towards maintaining a healthy gut microbiome, as fiber serves as a fuel for the beneficial bacteria residing in our digestive tract. Also, the gradual release of glucose drip fed into the blood from whole grains and higher fiber foods is going to help to stabilize our blood glucose levels, providing sustained energy and reducing the risk of sudden spikes and crashes. When we actually incorporate staples such as the wheat berries, oatmeal, quinoa, brown rice, buckwheat, corn, what others haven't we spoken about? Quinoa, free care, wild rice, I can never pronounce that one, triticale. When we actually incorporate them into our diet alongside vegetables into your meals, not only is that going to enhance the nutritional quality of your diet, but also promote long-term health and well-being. So to go one step further, we're going to talk about glycemic index, which is abbreviated to GI. And that serves as a valuable tool for understanding how different types of food impact your blood sugar levels. And it's going to provide an insight into the rate at which carbohydrates are actually broken down and absorbed into the bloodstream. So if we start with high GI foods to begin with, foods with a high glycemic index score, scoring 70 or above, are rapidly digested and absorbed, leading to a swift and substantial increase in blood glucose levels. Let's take, for example, apple juice. Apple juice is absorbed very, very quickly in the small intestine, That rapid spike is going to increase your blood sugar and can pose challenges for individuals with diabetes, or perhaps they're on a fat loss journey, because you're going to have that sudden spike and then drop in blood glucose, meaning that we produce a hormone called ghrelin, or which I like to call the gremlin, which is going to tell you that you're still hungry because you don't have that sustained energy. Alongside that, we now have insulin being produced to manage the elevated glucose levels. And of course, if we've got too much glucose in the blood and more insulin being produced, it can lead to insulin resistance. So we are really monitoring blood glucose alongside your goals. On the other hand, foods with a low GI, low glycemic index, scoring 55 or below, are digested a lot more slowly, resulting in a gradual and moderate rise in blood sugar levels. We could actually compare white bread versus brown bread. So the white bread would be a high GI carbohydrate. The brown bread would be a low GI carbohydrate. That slower digestion actually can promote a stable and sustained release of glucose into the bloodstream, which might be beneficial for maintaining optimal blood sugar control. When we actually incorporate more low GI foods into meals and snacks, that's going to prolong feelingness of fullness and satiety, so to manage your appetite and also regulate your calorie intake. But we need to recognize that GI is just one aspect of evaluating a food's nutritional quality. We also want to consider the overall nutrient profile of that particular food, including fiber content, micronutrients, macronutrient composition, and be informed of dietary choices that align with our specific goals, whether it's weight loss, weight maintenance, calorie surplus, or even just general health. Now, there can be individual responses to foods based on factors such as genetics, gut health, metabolic function. So that does highlight the need for personalized nutritional approaches. But when we incorporate a variety of different foods with balanced GI values into your diet, that's going to adopt a holistic approach to nutrition and support your overall well-being and make sure that it's optimal for health outcomes, whilst also enjoying the diverse and flavorful range of culinary options. Now, that's not to say that you should just only choose low GI foods. What you could do is, if we're using the comparison of white bread versus brown bread, with the white bread, you can actually lower the GI when you incorporate a protein and a fat within that meal, focusing on the portion plate. So if we use breakfast as an example, you have 2 slices of white bread. You then have eggs, which contain dietary cholesterol, but also protein. And you've got some avocados, some very, very good fats in there, maybe some vegetables in there as well, spinach. We can actually lower the GI of that meal because it's going to take a lot longer for our gastrointestinal tract and our gut microbiome to digest and actually separate those different macronutrients in order: carbohydrate, protein, and fat. What you could also do is look at portion control. So again, you don't necessarily have to choose the low GI product or food. What you can do is just look at portion control. So instead of having 2 slices of white bread, you could then have 1 and incorporate your proteins and fats. But what we will try to do is incorporate a variety depending on your training status as well. It could be more favorable to have high GI foods post resistance training. That's just because you are very insulin sensitive and we need to replenish your liver and muscle glycogen. Whereas pre-training, we might choose a low GI food because then you're going to have sustained energy heading into your workout throughout the workout as glucose is drip fed into your blood, and we no longer have spikes and crashes, but sustained energy to be able to lift those weights and perform to a higher standard. Now, added sugar, it's naked to the human eye. It's in everyday foods. It can be problematic because it doesn't provide any nutritional value whatsoever. It's labeled as just empty calories and extra calories. So these calories don't come with the essential vitamins, minerals, or other nutrients that our body needs to stay healthy. What makes it trickier is that added sugars actually sneak into processed foods, even ones that seem healthy based on the labeling terms, or harmless. Now, eating too much added sugar can actually lead to consuming more calories than what your body needs, which can result in weight gain over time. And that's particularly important if you're trying to manage your weight or lose weight. Now, additionally, diets high in sugar have been linked to health issues such as non-alcohol fatty liver disease, where excess fat builds up in the liver, potentially leading to inflammation and even liver failure. So it's really, really crucial to be mindful of hidden sugars in processed foods and make a conscious choice to limit your intake and promote better health and well-being in the long run. We can see on the right-hand side from that Coca-Cola, 1 can of that soft drink actually exceeds the recommended maximum of 30 grams of added sugar per day. Off the top of my head, I might be wrong. I believe it's around 33 grams. Looking at protein. Protein is going to be vital to help you build muscle, but it also plays a numerous crucial role in the body, primarily for growth and repair and maintenance of your tissues. So foods rich in protein will provide the building blocks necessary for formation, for the new cells to grow and repair any damaged tissues, making them essential for overall health and well-being. Protein sources will vary, but it does include meats, fish, poultry, eggs, beans, lentils, soy products, nuts, seeds. They will have a variety of different aminos within that food, but we need to make sure that whether it's an individual meal plan or portion control, that you do have dietary preferences and also restrictions in place, depending on if you are vegan or vegetarian as well. Now, to ensure adequate protein intake, we typically recommend 2 to 3 portions of protein-rich foods per day, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This recommendation is based on factors including the body's needs for that amino acid, the essential component of protein, and also in the role of building muscle, which is called muscle protein synthesis. Now, we do have an amino acid which is called leucine, which is found abundantly in many protein sources, and it's the primary driver of muscle protein synthesis, helping to stimulate muscle growth and muscle repair. So when we incorporate adequate portions of protein-rich foods into your daily meals and snacks, that's going to support vital functions and maintain optimal health and fitness levels. We then have fats. It's another essential macronutrient. It includes providing energy, supporting cell growth, and protecting your organs. It also aids in the absorption of those certain vitamins which we talked about previously. However, it's important to consume fats in moderation. We typically recommend that fat should make up around 20 to 35% of your total daily calorie intake. Within this range, saturated fat should be limited to less than 10% of your total calories. Excessive consumption of saturated fat is going to increase your cholesterol levels and a higher risk of heart disease. The majority of fat intake should come from unsaturated fats, which are found in foods like nuts, seeds, avocados, olive oil or rapeseed oil, my 2 favorite cooking oils, and they can improve your heart health. For example, based on a 2,000 calorie diet, this would actually translate into approximately 44 to 77 grams of total fat, with less than 22 grams per day, or 10% of that 2,000 calories coming from saturated fats, and then the remaining fat intake should primarily consist of those unsaturated fats. So to summarize once again, 2,000 calorie diet, total fat should be 44 to 77 grams, saturated fat should be less than 22 grams, and then the remainder unsaturated fats. When we actually pay attention to the different types of fat and the amount of fat consumed, we can make informed dietary choices that support long-term health and vitality. Now, we do have different types of fat. We've got trans fats, saturated fats, dietary cholesterol, and unsaturated fats. In later trainings, we will refer to this as the castle and the wall analogy, but for now, we would say we've got healthy fats and unhealthy fats. Unsaturated fats, they're very, very good for you. These do include monounsaturated fats, pumpkin seeds, nuts, avocados, olive oil, rapeseed oil. You may go to your favorite pharmacy and you pick up some omega-3 fish tablets. I recommend that you get it through Whole Foods because they contain polyunsaturated fats, omega-3s, oily fish, flax seeds, linseeds, and walnuts. They're going to increase your good blood cholesterol, which I'll refer to as trained soldiers in later trainings. It's going to reduce your bad blood cholesterol, those soldiers that are on probation. It's going to help to absorb fat-soluble vitamins, and they're used to maintain bodily functions, and it's important for your heart circulation as well. So we actually want to replace saturated fats with unsaturated fats as often as you can. To actually compare those two, saturated fats are typically solid at room temperature. We got butter, we got ghee, we got fatty meats, we got cream, we got cheese in that second row. The only exception is coconut oil. That's a liquid at room temperature, and I believe it contains roughly 85% saturated fat. So too much saturated fat is going to have an impact on your heart health. We've got too many soldiers on probation, so we have them in moderation. And then we've got trans fats. We want to avoid them as much as possible. They're going to be found in processed foods, drinks, cakes, biscuits, chocolates, sweets, vegetable shortenings, hard cooking fats. They're going to increase your bad blood cholesterol and lower our good blood cholesterol. So we want to avoid them. Whereas dietary cholesterol, we want to aim for things like eggs. Eggs for breakfast, fantastic. Shellfish as well. They do increase your good blood cholesterol. They're not going to impact your overall blood cholesterol levels unless you were born with something called genetic hyperlipidemia, which means you have high blood cholesterol levels. So naturally they contain cholesterol, but they do not increase your bad blood cholesterol. So we want to include them as part of your diet. Then we've got dairy, so ensuring that we have an adequate intake of key nutrients such as calcium, B vitamins, including B12, vitamin D, and also protein. That's going to be paramount for supporting optimal health and well-being. To put it simply, when we were infants, we were breastfed, we were bottled fed. It provides that good source of calcium to strengthen our bones. A little bit of biology for you without going to the extremity of it. Essentially, we'd have something called osteoblastic production. And I want you to think of these as the road maintenance team. So imagine you've got a few potholes on your road. These guys come along, they use calcium, and they actually mop it up and they repair that road. So let's say you break a bone or you fracture a bone. That's exactly what happens. So if you ever, hopefully you don't, if you ever get injured and you do break a bone or you do fracture it, dairy is going to be your best friend. It's going to strengthen your bones because of that. So we've got something called osteoblasts, osteoclasts, and osteocytes. These three road maintenance team come along, they use calcium, and they strengthen your bones and your ligaments and your tendons. We also want to choose fortified and sugar-free products if we are using alternatives. 2 to 3 portions of calcium-rich foods per day is going to be necessary. In terms of alternative products like plant-based milk or fortified foods, it is really crucial to prioritize these options that are fortified with essential nutrients and actually avoid any of them that have added sugars to maximize the nutritional benefits. With the 2 to 3 portion of calcium-rich foods per day, this could be milk, could be cheese, could be yogurt, whatever you want. And again, we are aiming for 0% low reduced fat options. They still have the same benefits, but they're lower in calories. So again, that gives you more opportunity to create a healthy or more of a balanced diet. And when we actually choose these, it's a step towards your weight loss goals, weight maintenance, or even gaining weight. So here are examples. We've got phage, we've got stevia. They are 0%. We're aiming to 2 to 3 portions of calcium-rich foods per day. And also, they give us a variety of benefits such as vitamin D, B12, and the big one, calcium. Fruit and vegetables. You may have heard that 5 a day keeps the doctor away. As new evidence emerges, this is slowly moving towards 7. This includes a diverse array of options, fresh, but also frozen. That's going to give us the flexibility and accessibility to meet our dietary needs, especially if we're traveling. We want to aim for roughly 2 fruit and 3 vegetables, just based on the sugar content. We also want to aim to fill half our plate with them at meals, our 8 fingers. We want to opt for more vegetable sources for the remaining portions, blues, reds, yellows, greens, pinks, oranges, blacks, purples. Be cautious using dried fruit. They can contain a significant amount of sugar, and if you can, choose whole fruits over fruit juice just to minimize sugar intake and maximize fiber. That's not to say that you can't have fruit juice, but make sure you look for the labeling term 100% from concentrate. Then we know it's been broken down in its natural form and it's not been pumped with added sugar.